Is 6 o'clock. We can call to order the September 19th, 2023 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. We have as our first order of business the approval of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Motion by Carl, support by Robin.
Yes.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. Second item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for the August 15th Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes as presented.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion by Thomas and a support by Robin. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Third on the agenda is the request for solicitation for public comments. Anything that's not related to the agenda items. Is there anybody from the public wishing to speak on anything? Hearing none, we will close the public comments period and move along to item number 5, the fourth item on our agenda, a variance request, which is a public hearing. Carl, could you read the application for us, please?
Owner applicant Brian and Wendy Seitzma, property address 7060 Childsdale Avenue Northeast, part of, parcel number 411011401021, part of, lot size approximately 6.36 acres proposed, zoning R1B residential, zoning ordinance section 3.01E2, and this is a public hearing.
Thank you, Carl. Given that, is there someone from the an applicant who wish to address the issue at hand?
Hi, good evening. My name is Brian Seitzma. I, about 3.5 months ago, acquired the property at 7060 Childsdale. It went on the market. We purchased the property with the intent to build ourselves our own family residence. We're builders, as you probably already know. Currently, we live at 2996 Wasaki in Plainfield Township. We built that home about 7 years ago. And it's a smaller lot, and we just like to get some room to breathe, have some trees, have some nature, a little bit more than we have right now. Build a barn and just have a little bit more space. Have the grandkids over, just kind of get quiet and have our place. After we bought the property, I went in and started to meet with Pete and Elizabeth and Jeff and did some land divisions just so I knew what the property could do. We sold the house that was on the existing property and I apologize, I'm slipping on the original owner's name. It was in their name for 47 years. Sold that house off to a young couple and then finished up kind of the land division with the intent to really deed it to ourselves and keep it. I started to study the barn situation on this particular property, and this happening all after my wife and I probably spent $20,000 getting into trouble trying to acquire 3625 4 Mile, which is a 20-acre parcel that's wrought with problems. It currently has an existing 120 by 80 barn on it. And our intent there was to totally renovate that barn and build it into a barnuminium when Pete and Elizabeth, before I did any more spending on the property, pointed out that you can't have a principal residence attached to anything bigger than an 846 square foot garage. So that was out the window. We did further studies with the health department and basically tore the property apart trying to find sand and deemed that it wasn't going to work. It was way too expensive. So we bought Childsdale. Started to study the barn stuff, understood that if I kept as you can see on some of the survey work, there's 3 lots of record legal here. And again, Pete, Elizabeth, and Jeff helped me get all of those P's and Q's down right for that. And when I started to study the barn ordinance, I didn't realize that I couldn't build bigger than 2,400 square feet in one of the structures. Understanding that I had 5,000 feet allowable, I didn't catch the 2,400. They helped, pointed it out, which was obviously a little disappointing. My intentions the entire time was to try to get a wider, longer structure so that we can store our boats, potential RV someday, and still have an indoor sport court. I don't want to lead on to the fact that I've been sucked into the new pickleball craze, but we think we could put a pickleball court in there for our family for the winter. So right now, my variance request, I wrote down that I'm requesting 3,500 square feet under the roof, when in reality, the accessory structure includes the porch. I had originally did a thought process of having a big fire pit patio outside and that 12 by 35 covered porch on the 70-foot north wall of the barn. And I am willing to forego that because the 50 by 70 overall size of the actual structure is really what I'd like for a host of reasons. We received one phone call early on when we bought the property from one of the neighbors who today filed an objection to my variance, and she asked what we were going to do with the property, and we gave her assurances that we were going to leave the 400 by 100 against the development to the south alone for the very nature of keeping the woods and keeping it private. So I also think today some of the complaints or the objections that came in is a little bit of a conundrum because the address of the new property is actually 7030. I probably should have written that in there because Kent County the health department issued 7030 as the new address for the new remainder parcel, but they didn't provide us with that in writing yet. And I'm not quite sure why I requested it with Elizabeth on an email to the health department, but they haven't gotten back to us. But 7030 is the address. So if people searched 7060, they already see that there is an existing pole barn on that property, which we split off. You can see it. It says EX barn on the back of that. So some of those objections today said, well, he's already got a barn. Well, it's actually not the case. It's been split off and sold. To further try to improve on both the privacy and the size, understanding the barn, the house is not going to be that big. The house is actually going to be pretty much a replica as of right now of what we built on Wasaki. So I think it's 1790 on the main floor and 14 something down. Pretty modest home. Our intentions are to build the barn to match the house, so it's not going to be your typical ugly pole barn. It's going to be dressed up. And I did not print any images of our current house, but we've dolled it up pretty cool. And I've also situated my desired barn between 50 and 60 feet off what would be the neighboring property to the south, when I think that's technically a side yard that I think the ordinance only requires, is it 20 for a side yard to an accessory building? So again, I know it was less than what I've proposed. And again, the spirit is to let as much decent tree stay. Now that lot is wrought with box elders that are falling apart and it's full of dead ash. Again, some of the complaints that came in or the objections spoke to, I'm cutting all of the trees down. Well, no, we're not. We're cleaning up all the dead stuff that's actually a danger to their kids. I know some of the kids wander onto the property in the past because it was just a wooded piece of property. we're actually improving the safety of the property by cleaning it up properly. So the bottom line is, the 2,400, it really doesn't work well efficiently, it doesn't work economically, and it doesn't work for environmental impact. And as you see on my second exhibit, page number 9, I could build a pair of 25 by 80s and the attached garage to the house, and that's allowable. Now, that's the letter of the law. I didn't intend to, my wife nor I, did we intend to build to the letter of the law. That's why that covered porch on the proposal I want is not important. But the 50 by 70, I don't think is a huge ask when to really achieve more space, you'd have to have a 10-foot isolation distance between multiple structures. It just doesn't fit the land well, it doesn't work well, and I can get what I need out of the 50 by 70. I'm open to any questions.
Let the public who address the issue, and then we'll discuss it amongst the board.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone from the public wishing to speak? Please come to the microphone, state your name and address, and ask whatever questions of the board, or make any statements that you wish. This is not a dialogue between you and the applicant. It's you and us. If there's questions, lay them out there, and we will look to get the answers for you.
Okay, gotcha. Rob DeVerna, 3669 Fraser Street, Northeast. I guess most of these questions are for you guys, so I'll ask them, and then you guys, I don't know what the process is as far as, and these are all questions that, I speak on behalf of the 4 properties. I've got, the verbal or written approval to speak on their behalf as well. So, the number one thing is, knowing the size of the proposed structure. Like our question is this going to be a workshop for their business? Because that would be, our biggest concern is like, they're putting a very large structure back there. They're builders, builders tend to have workshops, so is this going to be their workshop? I know they mentioned the pickleball thing and, building the house. The second, question would be like, when is the proposed like move-in date for them? Are they moving on to the property? They're talking about building a house. So when will that be completed? Will the house be completed first? Will the pole barn be completed first? Where is their current workshop? Do they have enough space at their current workshop? Let's see. Obviously putting a very large structure back there is gonna, we think it's gonna affect our property values because we went from having a really nice kind of privacy wooded area behind us, and now you can see right through there. I mean, when they say they haven't cleared the property, they have cleared a lot of the property. And so, it's pretty much like we're gonna be in each other's backyards. And so if they do truly intend to occupy the property itself. So, our concern is, will there be additional, clearing? What is that gonna look like on our end? Those are the big things. So the biggest thing is, are really like, is this going to be a workshop for the company? And where is their current workshop? And why do they need something so big? So I guess that's really all. If it's not a dialogue, it'd be easier to have a dialogue, but I get that's not the process. So I guess that's it then.
Thank you.
All right.
Any other comments, questions, concerns for the public hearing? Hearing none, the public hearing portion is closed. Elizabeth, you wish to brief us on your findings leading into this?
Sure.
Thank you.
So I did draft the staff report, so I'm happy to answer any questions on that. But overall, staff has found that this variance request just doesn't meet the review of practical difficulties, the standards necessary to grant a variance. We are in the process of drafting some zoning ordinance updates that the Planning Commission will review at their next meeting allowing a larger pole building if, they meet X, Y, Z criteria as a special use to ensure that, these large pole buildings aren't being used to run businesses, because that is generally what tends to happen with these larger buildings. Typically for strictly residential buildings, a 2,400 square foot structure is just fine for most people. In fact, our neighboring communities only allow 1,200 square feet cap. So we're actually double, what other communities allow in that regard. So yeah, if you have any questions on the specifics, I'm happy to get into it. But I thought I'd just leave it simple for you guys.
Good. Now, there were 3 questions raised. Essentially, what was the use of the structure? And that's not something that the Zoning Board of Appeals generally involves itself with. So we don't bring that into the equation to even discuss. It's outside of the purview of this board. Time frame, same thing. What we are looking at, and clearing, that's permitted land use by right. We don't get involved with it. Those are neighborhood concerns, rightly so, but that's not part of what we can or are allowed to address. What we are asked to evaluate is, the applicant is asking to put a building of size 4,100 and some square feet, Carl? 4,160. 4,160 square feet, whereas the threshold is 2,400. And so we are obligated to look at the practical difficulties created by the zoning ordinance and 5 metrics, 5 different situations. And those are prescribed to us by law. It's not a popularity contest. It's our interpretation of these 5 metrics that we look to cite. And so given that, Robin, would you have any questions, comments, or concerns to share with us?
Not at this time.
Very well, we'll reserve the right. Do you have anything else? Find, following? Thank you. We'll open it back up. Mike?
One question in the request details, there's a comment to the effect of, if the variance request is approved, the applicants will recombine 2 parcels and purchase additional acreage to meet the zoning ordinance minimum requirements. I'm not following.
That's fair. It's confusing.
Following what's happening there.
Yeah, so they are currently approved for this splits right here, except for this piece. So they want to build here. They're rough, but that's their desired home location, barn here. To get the 5 acres that they would need to construct a pole barn of that size, they need to recombine either parcel B or parcel C with this parcel and purchase some property from their neighbor. So if this goes through, they will have to do some work with assessing to get that all done. It's not done yet, so that's why it's a condition of approval if you choose to move forward with the variance.
I guess that's what's confusing to me. If that additional land is purchased and this is combined back into one larger parcel, it almost reads to me like then the proposed structure meets the zoning ordinance.
So the variance that they're asking for is from the maximum size of any one particular building. We cap that at 2,400 square feet. They can have multiple pole buildings on the property, multiple accessory buildings, and an attached garage that combined total 5,000 square feet. But they're asking to have one singular structure that exceeds the max that we have. Yeah, it's confusing.
Can I clarify something on your question?
Do you understand the situation at hand, Mike? Okay. No, thank you. Are you all set, Mike?
Yeah, I'm all set. Thank you.
Carl, you have any comments, questions?
To follow up on Mike's comments, Elizabeth, what you're saying is if they reacquire parcel B and C and the one in the back, they would be in excess of 5 acres and could build a 5,000 square foot barn.
So, no, they would only have to recombine B or C
Oh,
and
B.
the acreage in the back.
Okay,
But they still could not by right build a 5,000 square foot pole building.
it's 2,400, no matter if you had 1,000 acres.
Correct,
5,000 square feet in multiple buildings.
correct.
Okay. I guess this is more for either Elizabeth or the applicant. When were parcels A, B, and C recently done
Yes,
within the last year or so,
in the last couple of months,
last couple of months?
which is why it's not showing up on the GIS.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
So prior to that, this parcel had over 5 acres, and they could have built a total of 5,000 square feet. Am I reading that correctly? Okay.
Correct, yeah.
This goes to a question from the public. When I went by there today, I could see where they were clearing, and I'm assuming that that clearing is the proposed access to the new facility, the new, not the home, but the accessory building. To me, this appears to be self-inflicted. If they would not have sold off those parcels, they could have had 2 24 square foot buildings,
Two structures.
2 structures. Okay. At this point, that's all I have.
Thank you, Kyle. Thomas?
Yeah, I really don't have anything. Mike kind of touched on the questions I had surrounding that language. That's clear now, so, I mean, I hate to say it, but it looks like it's self-inflicted to me, so I agree with the report.
The public hearing is closed.
I didn't realize I was part of the public hearing. I thought I would be able to respond. It can't be self-inflicted. There's more than 5 acres on the first 3 parcels. After I split off the existing home, there's still 5 acres there.
Thank you. So we have application in front of us where the applicant is seeking a variance to construct an accessory building in excess of the prescriptive 2,400 square feet. Is the issue clear to everyone how
Yes.
property lines will be mitigated in order to allow potentially the variance request? I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I move to deny the variance request for the construction of a 4,160 square foot detached accessory building where the maximum permitted size of an individual detached accessory building is 2,400 square feet, based on the following findings of fact. 1, the site does not have unique or substandard features. 2, the conditions of the site and development circumstances are self-created. 3, the strict compliance with the ordinance is not unnecessarily burdensome. 4, granting the variance would not provide substantial justice to the property owner or to the surrounding property owners. 5, the nature of the request makes a text amendment to the more desirable option for compliance. 6, the proposed variance requests are not supported for those reasons set forth by the members of the Zoning Board of Appeals and members of the public as reflected in the entire record on this matter, including the meeting minutes.
Motion, do we have support?
Support.
Support by Thomas. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion is denied. Thank you. So moving along on our agenda, we have staff comments. Elizabeth, you seem to be the entire staff for us today.
I am. Pete has officially handed the reins of the ZBA to me, so
Didn't even see him tuck and roll.
I know, it was fast. But nope, I don't have any other comments. Thanks for
Very
your
good.
time.
Any commissioner, or are we technically commissioners? Or Zoning Board of Appeals members here?
Members, yeah.
Mike, anything? Robin?
I have nothing.
I'm good.
Carl,
Nothing.
I'm sorry to hear of your loss in this environment. Thank you for showing up and sharing your professionalism with us. I don't think I'd be able to function for a while. I have no comments. Hearing that, we'll adjourn at 6:28.